And Channel 10's Diane Allen with a special report on fluoride in your water. Fluoride that might be a danger to your health. A Channel 10 special focus report coming up next.
In the 50s, it was called a communist plot, the adding of fluoride to drinking water to prevent cavities. Now, some 40 years later, some reputable scientists are claiming fluoride could lead to health dangers, even cancer, and that the government has kept those dangers secret. In a Channel 10 Focus investigation, Diane Allen investigates these new concerns about fluoride.
You can't see it in the water, but it's there. Fluoride, added to the water in Philadelphia and hundreds of other communities in our area. It's a tiny amount, just 1 part per million, added to prevent tooth decay. But now there's evidence it can hurt your teeth and maybe do much greater harm. Here in Bridgeton, New Jersey, Karen Elwell's dentist says her teeth show what fluoride can do besides prevent cavities.
Karen has a very mild level of enamel fluorosis, which is a discoloration of the enamel because of an overdose of fluoride at an early age.
Her teeth have bright white and brown areas in the back. The front teeth have been bonded to hide the spots because they embarrass Karen, but you can see them on this old photo.
As I got older, because my teeth were discolored, I became aware that people were probably looking at my teeth whenever they looked at me.
Some fluorosis or fluoride poisoning is much worse, pitting the teeth, wearing them down until they just disintegrate. There are studies that show fluorosis is on the rise in this country. In Canada, the Dental Association is alarmed that fluorosis now affects more than 30% of Canadian children. If you live in a fluoridated area, it's hard to know until it's too late if your child is getting too much.
What about the mother who mixes formula with water and wants her baby to drink about 2 quarts of liquid a day?
That could be a problem.
Definitely, because she's giving her child now 8 times the recommended dose for a newborn.
The truth is, we may get fluoride from many sources: toothpaste, mouthwash, and applications at the dentist's office. Those are all topical. They don't go in our system like fluoridated water does.
Fluoride accumulates in bones, never stops accumulating until you die.
And that worries former EPA scientist Bob Carton, because recent studies show it changes the bone as it accumulates. In study after study, fluoride has been associated with arthritis, stress fractures, and an increase in hip fractures in the elderly. And there's also now an association with one form of bone cancer. In a New Jersey study of 7 counties, including 3 in our area, Burlington, Atlantic, and Mercer, osteosarcoma, a childhood bone cancer, was found to occur nearly 4 times more often in young boys in fluoridated towns. Bob Carton resigned from the EPA because he says it's known about some of these results for years and done nothing.
EPA has been engaged in a massive cover-up on this entire affair.
So we came here to Washington, D.C. to ask a top EPA official in charge of drinking water safety if the EPA has kept secret from the American people the potential dangers of fluoride.
We're very concerned about all the information, and there just hasn't been any attempt at cover-up.
The EPA has now ordered a major study by the National Academy of Sciences into fluoride safety.
We want to do this review in a very open scientific process.
There's so much data coming out now showing bone cancer, other bone diseases, that it really should scare people to death that they're putting it in the water.
The amount of fluoride allowed in water is expected to change once that EPA report is released later this month. Diane Allen, Channel 10 News.
And tomorrow, as Diane continues her special focus investigation, what do these bags of fertilizer have to do with the fluoride in your water, your toothpaste, and mouthwash?
There are reputable scientists who say more testing also needs to be done on the fluoride found in much of our drinking water, toothpaste, and mouthwash. This after new studies linking fluoridated water to hip fractures, even bone cancer. In a Channel 10 Focus investigation, Diane Allen looks at these health concerns and tells us how to keep our children from getting too much fluoride.
Every time you take a drink of water in Philadelphia, Wilmington, Atlantic City, or hundreds of other communities in our area, you're putting fluoride into your system.
It's known to be toxic. It used to be used as a rat poison, as a cockroach poison.
And now it's put in drinking water
Now
for you
put in
and me.
drinking water.
Fluoride is a waste product of the process used to make phosphate fertilizer like this.
EPA has gone on record saying that's a wonderful way of getting rid of a hazardous waste.
Bob Carton is a scientist who resigned from the EPA because of its stand on fluoride. The government's been pro-fluoride since 1945, when it was first found that when added to water, it reduced tooth decay. But new studies from several countries, including New Zealand and Canada, show that the decay is now going down at the same rate in non-fluoridated areas. No one is certain why, but a growing number of scientists are certain there could be potential problems with fluoride. In study after study, fluoride delivered through the water system is associated with many health problems: arthritis, bone fractures, and bone cancer. It's because of such concerns that many countries now ban fluoride, among them Germany, Denmark, Spain, and Finland. Yet leaders of the American dental establishment say it's safe.
Too much of anything, any nutrient, is a bad thing. I mean, too much salt is bad, too much vitamin A is bad, you know, and too much fluoride can be bad too. But in the levels that are used, I really don't think it's a bad thing.
Here in Allentown, Pennsylvania, there is no fluoride in the water, but City Council is considering action that would fluoridate the water sometime next year. Unfortunately, the main proponent of fluoridation on City Council won't talk to us on camera. But Jack Kushner would. He's on the Board of Health in Allentown and is fighting fluoridation. He says supporters ignore new evidence, like a New Jersey study that shows an association between fluoridated water and an increase in bone cancer among young men.
One of their arguments are that the benefits are worth the risk. Diane, there are no benefits when a person develops a cancer.
Doctors on both sides of the fluoride issue agree that we should watch the fluoride intake of our children. This is too much toothpaste for a child. Instead, a very small amount like this, the size of a small pea, should be used by children under 6, and they should not be allowed to swallow the toothpaste. Also, they should never use fluoridated mouthwash. Fluoride treatments in your dentist's office are okay, but there are questions about fluoride drops or tablets. Make sure your prescribing doctor knows if your water's fluoridated. You can find out by calling your water company or water department. How much fluoride ingestion is safe?
Well, I don't think anybody knows how much is safe. The amount that they put in water definitely isn't safe.
Scientists agree that research needs to continue, and we'll make sure you know the latest when it comes to fluoride safety. Diane Allen, Channel 10 News.
You're watching WTTG, Fox 5 in Washington, D.C. The 10 o'clock news starts now.
There's something in that tap water you drink, fluoride. Dentists say it's good for your teeth, but some scientists say it's slowly poisoning our bodies. Fox 5's Daria Folsom takes a look to see if our water is safe to drink.
"62% of the public water running to taps in this country has been fortified with fluoride. That includes the entire Washington metro area. Dental experts say ingesting fluoride prevents cavities in everybody, and it's crucial for children 6 months to 6 years old when their teeth are forming.
Brushing up with the fluoride toothpaste is really helpful, but it's the ingestion of fluoride in the water that really helps a lot in keeping decay away.
In fact, since fluoridated water became widespread in the 1960s, there's been a dramatic decrease in cavities, but there's also been a significant increase in dental fluorosis.
They're pitted and brown and very disformed.
This is what Misty Levine's teeth used to look like before the Maryland teenager got braces and caps.
I'd only smile for my pictures, and then I even stopped doing that because they looked horrible. I didn't want to show them at all.
You get dental fluorosis from ingesting too much fluoride as a young child. Less than 1% of kids in the U.S. have it as severe as Misty, but 1 in 5 have mild to moderate fluorosis, which causes white specks on the teeth. Misty's mom had no idea too much fluoride could be bad.
I don't think any parents are aware of how much it could hurt. They only know what's been publicized about how it can help.
Fluoride is a toxic chemical, a byproduct of making phosphate fertilizer. You have to get a prescription to get it in a pill, yet it's flowing freely in the water supply. The water we get in the Washington metro area contains the standard recommended dose. Marjorie Johnson is the spokesperson for the Washington Suburban Sanitary Commission.
You don't think anybody's getting too much?
No.
If it were a danger of that sort, I would think that there would be a warning on toothpaste, for instance. There would be these warnings out there, but there isn't.
In fact, if you take a closer look at the tube, there is a warning. It says right here, if you accidentally swallow, seek professional help or call poison control. They got nearly 4,500 calls last year. And the Centers for Disease Control says 70% of children under the age of 6 swallow their toothpaste every day.
No, they absolutely should be concerned about it.
Bill Hersey is a senior scientist with the EPA's Chemical Assessment Division. He and some other researchers are worried that years of ingesting small amounts of fluoride in toothpaste, water, and other beverages, like tea, which has 7 times more fluoride than a glass of water, could cause serious long-term health problems.
Based on the data that we've seen over the last 11 years, it can cause cancer, it can cause decrements in IQ, lowered IQ in children, it can cause other central nervous system effects, hyperactivity, it causes allergic reactions in some people.
All of those claims have been refuted by noted scientists throughout the world.
Jim Bawden is a pediatric dentist and professor at the University of North Carolina. He's been researching fluoride for more than 20 years.
There's just a huge weight of evidence, and massive studies have been conducted looking for toxic effects, and they have not found them.
They have found high levels of fluoride occur naturally in some springs and wells. You can't get rid of it by boiling or using most store-bought filters. It can only be removed through distillation or reverse osmosis, which some bottled water companies use. Drink More Water starts with regular tap water from Montgomery County. Then it puts it through a 10-step filtration process. So by the time it comes out, it's 99% free of metals, chemicals, bacteria, and all that other stuff you might not want to drink. But Nancy Levine doesn't think her family should have to drink filtered bottled water to get away from fluoride. That's why they moved to Thurmont, Maryland, which stopped adding fluoride to the water about 4 years ago.
To me, having fluoride in water is unacceptable. If you want to put it in toothpaste and mouthwash or anything like that, where you have the right to buy a brand that has it or doesn't have it, then it's your choice. And if you have a problem with fluoride, then you made the decision to use it. But with them putting it in the water, you have no decision. The choice is out of your hands.
The decision is made at state and local levels, and a number of communities around the country have opted to stop fluoridation. Ironically, the local professional union that represents scientists at EPA headquarters in Washington, D.C., sides with them.
This is a freedom of choice issue at its core. If people want to ingest fluoride, there are any number of ways they can do that. They can get pills from the drugstore, they can get toothpaste, they can get mouthwash. People who do not want to ingest fluoride ought not to have to take it in the public water supply.
It's the perfect delivery system, and it works, and it's safe.
While the pros and cons of fluoridated water are arguable, both sides agree swallowing toothpaste regularly can be bad for your child's teeth. To minimize the risk, make sure that they use only a pea-size amount of paste, about this much. The less on the brush, the less fluoride they can accidentally swallow. Morris and Tracy, back to you.
Thanks, Daria. The local professional union that represents EPA scientists in Washington, D.C., is backing a move to reverse a fluoridation mandate in California.
Good evening and welcome to Cable 10 News. I'm Maya Coiner.
And I'm Michael O'Connor.
Middletown officials are at odds over whether the town's water system should be fluoridated. Input has been gathered from residents as well as dentists and other health professionals, and a decision could be made soon. Middletown is one of few areas in the county and state that doesn't have fluoride in its water. Local dentist Dr. Fred Rudman says his business has flourished because of the town's lack of fluoride. He and other dentists say the mineral in the toothpaste isn't as effective in fighting plaque as fluoridated water. Others have strong opposition to the idea.
There is lots and lots of evidence that, number one, it's not effective. It doesn't do the job that they claim that it does. And number two, there are lots of long-term health effects, such as bone fractures and brain damage, that can occur from the levels that they're planning on putting in drinking water.
Some say only children benefit from fluoride and that there are better ways to give them the supplements they need.
Fluoride can be delivered, if you want it, can be delivered by tablets, and it can be measured, and the dose can be measured, and the doctor can prescribe an exact amount that your child should give. So if you decide you want to get it, you can get it that way. So fluoride is a drug. I mean, it is a drug. You can't get it without a prescription in a pharmacy, but you can go to a tap water, especially in Frederick. You can go and drink as much as you want and get as much as you want, and nobody's controlling it. So depending on how much water you get, that's the dose that you get. It's irresponsible, really, because there's no way to control it. Doctors control drugs for a reason. They give you a prescription that says this is how much you take every day, and there's a good reason for it.
Adding fluoride would cost roughly $22,000 according to officials. The town will discuss the issue further on Thursday and could either vote on it at a future public meeting or send it to a referendum.
Say ah.
Some 50 years ago, fluoride was considered a revolutionary miracle cure. It has transformed dental health in this great nation of ours. As you all know, fluoride protects our youngsters from the ravages of tooth decay. The benefits have been reaped by young and old alike.
We all want the best for our children, including sparkling white teeth. Children today have fewer fillings than ever before. But what is the truth behind this great success story? Better care of our teeth, or the magic ingredient in toothpaste, fluoride? Some parts of Britain, like Birmingham, already add fluoride to the water, and there are now plans to extend this to other cities: Liverpool, Manchester, Glasgow, and London. But fluoride is a poison. It may work in small quantities, but people are worried that there's just too much of it around.
Amanda Matthews and her brothers Stuart and James were born and raised in a fluoridated area in Bedfordshire. They now live in Suffolk. All three suffer from a condition called fluorosis.
We first became aware that Amanda might have had a problem with her teeth when we visited the dentist just before she was 6. Her second tooth was just starting to come through, and we noticed that they had brown patches on them.
Matthew's family ready for nose to come through?
But once Stuart had got it, then I thought, well, no way, this can't be.
When I first saw that my teeth were discoloured, I was teased quite a lot, especially in the middle school, by people. They used to say, oh, you don't clean your teeth or anything, and they used to call me shit teeth, which did upset me. And even though I knew it was fluorosis.
Fluorosis is a mottling of the enamel of the second teeth caused by fluoride. The authorities blame children for swallowing their toothpaste, but Jenny Matthews insists this never happened in her family.
Right from a young age, I've supervised them brushing their teeth and making sure they don't use too much toothpaste, and they've always brushed their teeth properly.
I'm quite cross about it because going back to when we first noticed it with Amanda, it would have been no means too late to do something about Stuart. Our dentist has always said, well, they can have veneers when their teeth have stopped growing, which depends on when your second teeth came through, but it's usually about 17. And I believe the cost is something like £150 a tooth. But we understand that once you have that done, you've really got to have them replaced about every 7 years. They grind the front of the teeth off, and forevermore you've got that work to be done.
Since Stuart is too young to have veneers put on, his teeth are being covered as a short-term measure. Amanda is considering the same treatment. But fluoride may cause other problems too.
It's clear that when you've got to the point of damaging your teeth, you've got to be worried about what it's doing to your bones, or what it will do to your bones in the future. So I think it's far more sensible and wise to think of this as an indication that there may be something else going on.
Half the fluoride taken in by the body is excreted, but the other half stays and builds up in the bones. Birmingham was the first city in Britain to fluoridate its water in 1964. The Royal Orthopaedic is the leading hospital in the region for treating bone diseases. Although excess fluoride damages bones, there's been no research to see if local people now have more fractures.
Here at the Orthopaedic Hospital, we see large numbers of elderly patients with arthritis and with spinal problems. And there's no doubt that osteoporosis is a significant problem for these patients. An excessive amount of fluoride in the bones is clearly harmful, and it will affect the incidence of osteoporosis and vertebral crush fractures. There's no doubt that any small change in the average strength of the bone in the population will have a significant effect, because vertebral crush fractures and hip fractures are so common that you've only got to have a small change and a great deal, many more people will suffer from it.
5 international studies have found higher rates of bone fracture in fluoridated areas. In Britain, the Medical Research Council made 4 recommendations for further studies. That was in 1993. So far, it has provided funding for just one of these.
What we need to do is to look at patients with osteoporosis, to look at their bone, to look at the levels of fluoride in the bone, so that we can see whether there really is a problem or not.
Despite these concerns, there is still a strong pro-fluoride campaign led by Michael Lennon, Professor of Preventive Dentistry at the University of Liverpool. He's chairman of the British Fluoridation Society and lobbies to increase fluoridation across the country.
Why I think it's an important priority in health promotion.
The overwhelming consensus view is that fluoride is a very effective way of reducing tooth decay. I mean, that's been reviewed by many, many professional organizations. I mean, the achievements have been huge, absolutely huge, and one of the most significant public health improvements in the last half of this century. And we shouldn't put that at risk.
The reason Professor Lennon doesn't want to put it at risk is that dental health has been transformed, especially among poorer people. Before fluoride, tooth decay was rampant. Yet dental health has also improved dramatically in countries which do not add fluoride to their water. Britain's fluoride is imported from Holland, where, ironically, fluoridation has been banned. Fluoride comes in the form of hexafluorosilicic acid, and in some parts of the world, it can also occur naturally in water. Just 2% of Europe is fluoridated, mainly in Britain and Ireland. The recommended level when fluoride is added to water is 1 part per million. The main fluoridated regions of Britain are the West Midlands, the North East, and parts of Lincolnshire and Bedfordshire. America was the first country to begin fluoridation, but the issue is now being fiercely debated there.
You're going to hear about a wide range of issues and problems that are going on all across the region. What are the pressing issues that are out there that we need?
A scientist at a leading dental research institute in Boston, Dr. Phyllis Mullenix, exposed rats to fluoride to work out its effects on the human brain and the central nervous system.
What we did was we exposed them, let them drink the fluoride in the water for 6 to 20 weeks. The pattern that we saw, it typically is what we see with other neurotoxic agents that are well known to cause a hypoactivity or a memory problem or an IQ problem. When I first presented the results of these studies, one of the individuals sitting and listening to the results, he says, "Do you have any idea what you're saying?" And he says, "You're telling us that we're reducing the IQ of children." And basically I said, yes.
I'm very, very skeptical about the application of her work to the human situation. I really don't think we can draw any conclusions about that at all. Even the people who are experts in rat metabolism are not convinced by her studies.
But new research from China supports Dr. Mullenix's conclusion that fluoride affects mental development and IQ levels.
I've heard a great deal about a chemical that can be used on the teeth to help prevent decay. Is that a good thing to use?
It certainly is. We use a fluoride solution, and we have evidence that for some people...
50 years ago, American government scientists had clinical evidence that fluoride affected the central nervous system. But all this was kept secret.
Chemical? You're going to put some chemical in my mouth?
All mention of the effects of fluoride on the central nervous system was stopped.
In 1997, Dr. Mullenix's work was also stopped. She was told it was not useful to dentistry.
Okay, Amanda, so I think we were going to do the same sort of thing for you as we did for your brother.
How long do you think it would last?
Might last years, it can last a few days, but the idea is we get them down for a few years.
Yeah.
And if they do drop off, then you've had nothing different under your teeth, no drilling.
Yeah, and
it's
there's
just
no damage
glued
to my
on,
teeth.
no damage at all.
My philosophy, and I've always said to them, is everyone's got a cross to bear, and okay, there's that, but it's really only in the last 6 months where we've come to realise that possibly it could cause other problems. I've always thought it was just cosmetic, but now I'm really concerned that it's not just cosmetic.
In my view, fluoride is where lead was in the early 70s. That argument lasted about 10 years, and it was finally proven that, yes, low levels of lead, lower than caused visible symptoms, was in fact damaging a child's mental development. I think the same thing's we're going to find with fluoride.
In the 1950s, fluoride was added to more and more dental products. This miracle chemical was the advertiser's dream.
Yes, Crest is the toothpaste that works, because Crest is the toothpaste with Fluoristan, a special fluoride formula.
When the fluoride dentifrice first came out, there was a great deal of effort to convince the public that they should use fluoride dentifrices. So some of the ads were maybe a little too excessive in terms of promising benefits from what people would get. But actually, if it hadn't been for this effort of the advertisers to get these products out, the widespread use of fluoride dentifrices probably would never have taken place.
This is a report from Colgate on a new advanced fluoride toothpaste, new Colgate with MFP.
John Hine was the person who developed MFP, the form of fluoride still regularly used in toothpaste.
You got to hit people over the head to get their attention, but nobody was being hurt by them. I did my best to tone them down while I was dental director at Colgate, but fighting Madison Avenue is not an easy thing to do when you're just dental director over in the lab.
Now, there are warnings on toothpaste packaging that children should use only a small amount, but you have to look hard to find them, and the warnings are certainly not reflected in advertising campaigns.
The level of fluoride in toothpaste is anything from 1,000 parts per million to 1,500 parts per million. And so, swallowing that toothpaste, you get a large amount of fluoride. And I think it's outrageous that the fluoridized toothpaste often has this lovely taste. It's encouraging children to swallow it, eat it, and some children do.
In Birmingham, although the Regional Health Authority has been enthusiastic about fluoridation, not everyone there regards it as a success story. Suzanne Quayle has severe fluorosis, and her mother Denise, a local school teacher, blames her problems on being unable to avoid fluoride.
I was very angry because nobody had told me about the effects of fluoride. If I'd have known what fluoride would do to the teeth, I would never ever have let her have fluoride toothpaste. As a baby, she used to put a little bit on her thumb when she went to bed and suck it, and I just thought it would be okay. I had no idea what effect there would be from fluoride. There were no warnings on the toothpaste tube at all.
The family has now given up fluoride toothpaste.
Extra decay care. It shows your teeth there looking white. It doesn't show you the brown stains you're going to get if you take the fluoride in, does it? It's very difficult to find non-fluoride products in the chemists, and it's very difficult to ascertain the level of fluoride you're taking in.
Banana flavour, yeah.
They're going to eat that, aren't they?
It's got fluoride.
If you went to your doctor and he gave you some medicine, usually there's a leaflet with it which gives you the recognised side effects, and it usually says something to the effect, if you take this medicine and you see these effects, stop taking it and consult your doctor. Whereas with fluoride, you can't go to anyone and say, my teeth are brown, I don't want to take fluoride anymore.
Nobody wants children to have unsightly teeth. And the mother's been careful to control the child's diet, has been using fluoride toothpaste from a very early age. Now, of course, it's very disappointing that the teeth come through initially with white marks, and then they may become brown in the course of time. That's undesirable. I think there have been cases where children have been abusing fluoride toothpaste, and we should stop them. We should give the mothers advice, and we should label the toothpaste tubes and so on. And that has been done. And I think the public are generally aware of the need to control the amount of fluoride toothpaste children get.
At Boots, dental products with fluoride outnumber those without by more than 10 to 1. In fact, Suzanne and Denise could only find 4 non-fluoride toothpastes. Dr. Peter Mansfield was a GP for 26 years and is head of an anti-fluoridation pressure group. He is worried about the levels of fluoride we're all exposed to.
One of the troubles with fluoride in this country is that we get a lot of it already before we get it from the water supply. The fluoride toothpaste is quite an important source because of the very concentrated fluoride in it. There's enough fluoride in a toothpaste tube of 60 grams to do serious damage to a child if it should choose to eat it all.
Tea grows best in soil naturally high in fluoride.
We're a great country of tea drinkers, and tea leaves have lots of fluoride, variable between brands, but lots. And after that, it's probably water, but not necessarily out of the tap. Much of that water will have come as the reconstituting fluid for juice concentrates. And also, of course, the pesticide residues on fruit and vegetables, processed or fresh, will contain quite a bit of fluoride.
A new study from the American Academy of General Dentistry found more than half of fruit juices had high levels of fluoride. It blames added water and pesticide residues on the fruit, since most pesticides contain fluoride. So, if you can get fluoride from water, toothpaste, everyday food and drinks, and half of it stays in the body, building up in the bones, is the average family getting a toxic dose? The Matthews family wanted to know just how much fluoride they were taking in. They sent urine samples to Dr. Mansfield so he could measure their intake.
From the toxicological point of view, the gap between the therapeutic dose, the dose which is supposed to be of benefit to the teeth, and the dose which can cause toxic effects is very small. It's much smaller than what we normally want, a factor of 100, that the toxic dose is 100 times greater than the therapeutic dose. The optimum level for drinking water is supposed to be 1 part per million. The maximum contaminant level, as prescribed by the EPA, is 4 parts per million. That gap is far too small in my view.
So, if at one level fluoride can damage your teeth, at a higher level your bones, and the central nervous system somewhere in between, then why are the authorities so confident about putting it in the water?
I think that if we were starting all over again and had no research data at all, we probably could not come around to getting fluoridation accepted today, because people would say, well, it's just too close. We can't possibly do it.
I have seen no research so far that convinces me that fluoride in water at the right level, it causes any problem at all. And our experience over 50 or 60 years with now hundreds of millions of people, and also others where the fluoride is naturally present for generations, none of that experience and none of that research suggests to me that there's any major problem.
Hello?
Is that Mrs. Matthews?
Yes, speaking.
This is Dr. Mansfield at Templegarth Trust. You were good enough to send me some urine samples for the whole family recently, and I've just tested them in our fluoride equipment. I thought you'd like to know the results.
Yes, yeah.
Your husband has quite a low value at 0.75 parts per million. Amanda's figure is quite high, it's 2.1.
Right.
James is 1.3, which is sort of intermediate, and Stuart is 1.9 again. So both Amanda and Stuart have really what I would consider to be quite high values. As a matter of fact, you're the champ. You come out at 3.3.
Gosh.
Well,
For every 3.3 milligrams Jenny excretes, another 3.3 stays in her bones, and she no longer even lives in a fluoridated area. Over 20 years, that level could cause serious health problems.
Firstly, the problem is yet to come. We're only watching it building up now. Even in America, they're only just beginning to see the really crippling stages, and they are already admitting to serious degrees of fluorosis of the teeth, which after all is the shop window of the bones.
So both you and Amanda have got higher levels than the boys
Well,
and
yes.
myself.
I don't know why that... Well, I think that's obviously something to do with the amount of tea, perhaps, that you and I drink more than anybody else. But apparently there is a lot of fluoride in tea, the area that it actually is grown in.
Oh, we have to cut down on that one.
Well, I did say to him, does that mean I should cut down the tea that I drink? He said, you should cut out the tea completely.
There's a list
And
of the
put
medical
apparently there are
conditions
some
that anti-fluoridation groups have claimed the fluoride can cause. There's about 60, running down from behavioural changes to housemaid's knee. Now, we can sit here all afternoon talking about each of those medical conditions, if you think that's a sensible use of our time. The point is that the Royal College of Physicians, the most eminent body in Britain, have looked at the evidence very, very carefully and have advised the government there is not a problem. The government's own medical advisors have done the same, and public health doctors throughout the world have done the same.
I think probably it'd be the cup of tea first thing in the morning that I'd miss more than anything. Do you think?
Yeah.
Do you think we should try cutting the tea out completely and find other things
So
that
is
we
he
can
saying
drink?
don't have fluoride toothpaste?
Yes, yeah, so we need to get some non-fluoride toothpaste.
What about beer?
Didn't
Do you
ask
think
him
about-
about beer, actually.
Oh,
I
good.
suppose he can still drink your beer.
We really don't know what a low level of fluoride is, and I'm not sure that we are getting a low level of fluoride. We've not been allowed to study this and further and look at lower and lower doses, but given over longer periods, say the lifetime of the individual or the animals, that's the question that we haven't even begun to touch. So I'm not sure what a low level is.
If you were building a dam above a village, you'd have to know everything was right about the structure of that dam. If we see a little crack in that dam, then that crack has to be taken seriously. And I think the cracks appear with fluoridation, with increased hip fracture, bone cancer in young males, possibly damage to the central nervous system. All these are red flags. Now we should apply the precautionary principle. The statement that there are no health cracks is an arrogant posture in my view, and I define arrogance as ignorance backed up with overconfidence. They haven't done the studies, the science has been poor, and you just can't assume that everything you don't know is going to work out in your favor.
Did you have any reaction when you went to school after you'd had your teeth done? Did anybody notice the difference?
Yeah, when I walked into school, because it stopped smiling.
Can you?